Only in Kentucky can a single county claim a bridge that crosses two different rivers and a neighboring county just to end up right back where it started, and the heartbreaking honor of sacrificing the very first American soldier in World War I. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm learning a little bit more about Kentucky, one county at a time, all 120 of them. And today I'm learning about McLean County. Situated within the western coalfield region, McLean County is dominated by Pennsylvania-aged bedrock, sandstone, shale, substantial coal measures deposited around 300 million years ago. But what makes the surface of this county so visually distinct is a geological phenomenon known as island hills topography. A long time ago, massive glaciers melted, sending enormous volumes of water and sediment surging down the Ohio River Valley. This created a profound backwater effect in the Green River, which bisects McLean County. The deep, ancient valleys were filled with vast quantities of sediment, burying the lower portions of the pre-existing bedrock hills and leaving only their upper crests exposed. Today, these bedrock ridges rise out of the broad, flat, fertile floodplains like islands in the sea of soil, with the highest point, Barrett Hill, reaching 660 feet above sea level. The Euro-American settlement of the area began in the late 18th century and was incredibly dangerous. Early pioneers faced such intense conflicts with indigenous populations that some settlers actually dug defensive caves into the hillsides near present-day Calhoun to hide from raids. In 1784, a Revolutionary War veteran named Captain Henry Rhodes laid out a town originally named Rhodesville. To secure it, his brother Solomon constructed a fortified garrison on a hill overlooking the river falls. The settlement was later renamed Fort Vienna, and the area became colloquially known as the settlement at Long Falls. McLean County was officially created on February 6, 1854, excised from the boundaries of Davis, Ohio, and Muhlenberg counties. The state legislature named the new jurisdiction in honor of Judge Allen E. McLean. McLean was a towering figure in Western Kentucky's early history. He fought under General Andrew Jackson at the Battle of New Orleans, serving 2 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives, and was a foundational architect of the Whig Party, helping Henry Clay organize political opposition against Jacksonian democracy. Beyond politics, McLean and his son William were vital pioneers of the region's economy. In 1820, they discovered coal on their property in Paradise, Kentucky, and became some of the first to commercially mine and ship it down the Green River on flat barges. And by the way, the Green River, the longest navigable waterway contained entirely within the borders of Kentucky, was the absolute lifeblood of the county. In the 1830s, a state-sponsored project built a series of locks and dams along the river, permanently transforming it into a deep draft conduit for massive steamboats. This infrastructure immediately catalyzed local industrial growth. The town of Rumsey became the site of Green River Lock and Dam No. 2. Designed by civil engineer Alonzo Livermore, the dam elevated Rumsey into a massive hub of shipyards and woolen mills. In 1846, the very first steamboat built entirely on the Green River, the Lucy Wing, was launched right here. The town of Rumsey derives its name, and by the way, I hope I'm saying it correctly, from a monumental figure in global transportation, James Rumsey. An American mechanical engineer, Rumsey preceded Robert Fulton by decades as a pioneer of steam navigation. In 1787, Rumsey successfully demonstrated a boat on the Potomac River that used a steam-driven pump to eject a powerful stream of water from the stern, effectively employing water jet propulsion. When developers proposed naming the McLean County town after his nephew, Congressman Edward Rumsey, Edward modestly declined and insisted it be named in honor of his pioneering uncle. During the Civil War, control of the Green River made McLean County a focal point of intense strategic interest. Union forces heavily fortified the county seat of Calhoun, organizing over 600 troops at Camp Calhoun. The Griffith Franklin House, a prominent local estate built in 1854, was commandeered by Union General Thomas Crittenden to serve as his regional headquarters and a military hospital. But the most historically significant military engagement in the county occurred on December 28, 1861, at the Battle of Sacramento. This fight represents the very first combat victory commanded by the notorious Confederate cavalry officer Nathan Bedford Forrest, earning the moniker Forrest's First Fight. Forrest, leading a hodgepodge regiment of around 300 mountain men armed with shotguns and Sharps rifles, intercepted a Union scouting party of about 200 cavalrymen led by an 18-year-old Major Ellie H. Murray. As Forrest rapidly advanced, a local civilian and Southern sympathizer, Molly Moorhead, rode alongside him, providing precise intelligence on the Union positions. Forrest employed a highly innovative tactic that would become his hallmark. He divided his forces, sending dismounted men into the brush to attack the Union flanks, while he personally led a ferocious mounted charge directly into the Union center. The fighting devolved into a brutal hand-to-hand saber duel within Sacramento city limits. Forrest personally killed 3 Union soldiers in close combat and took a 4th prisoner. The Union forces were decisively routed in what Forrest later described as a promiscuous saber slaughter. Following the Civil War, the county returned to an agrarian economy dominated by dark tobacco production. However, this period was also scarred by the stark racial violence endemic to the Jim Crow era. On April 20th, 1911, the town of Livermore achieved international notoriety for horrific extrajudicial lynching. A black man named Will Porter was seized by a mob following a bar altercation in which a white man was wounded. Accounts of the event indicate that the mob overwhelmed the local sheriff, restrained Porter on the stage of a local opera house, charged attendees the price of admission, and allowed the crowd to fire weapons at him from the theater's seating tiers. People in the gallery were given one shot, while those in the orchestra seats were allowed to empty their guns. The NAACP quickly condemned the atrocity, and while Kentucky's governor insisted on warrants for the lynchers, the ringleaders were rapidly acquitted by a local jury, and no one was ever brought to justice. Just a few years after the lynching in Livermore, the county was thrust onto the international stage during the outbreak of the First World War. McLean County holds the solemn, heartbreaking distinction of being the birthplace of the very first American soldier killed in combat during the Great War. James Bethel Gresham was born in 1893 in a small one-room log cabin near Beech Grove. Forced by systemic poverty to leave school in the 4th grade, he worked grueling hours in cotton mills to support his widowed mother. Seeking purpose, he enlisted in the U.S. Army and became one of the first American soldiers to reach French soil in 1917. In the frigid pre-dawn hours of November 3, 1917, elite German forces executed a sudden, violent trench raid against the American lines in France. During the brutal close-quarters combat, Corporal Grisham was killed alongside 2 other privates. They became the first 3 American soldiers to die in combat in World War I. The psychological impact of their deaths instantly galvanized the American public's commitment to the war effort. In 1928, a massive memorial bridge spanning the Green River was dedicated as the Corporal James Bethel Gresham Memorial Bridge, ensuring his ultimate sacrifice remains a permanent fixture of the county's landscape. The county's intimate relationship with the Green River also made it exceptionally vulnerable to catastrophic weather events. In January 1937, a 2-week period of relentless torrential rain swelled the Ohio River beyond its banks. This created an enormous backwater effect that surged aggressively up the Green River, inundating vast swaths of McLean County's low-lying valleys. The floodwaters submerged homes and infrastructure, forcing thousands of panicked residents to evacuate on foot and in wagons and small boats. But in the wake of that disaster, the county saw the construction of one of the most bizarre architectural anomalies in the country. Dedicated in 1940, the Livermore Bridge was funded by the Public Works Administration and built by the Bethlehem Steel Company. Entering from the south, the bridge begins in McLean County, crosses the Green River, traverses an elevated 520-foot sliver of land that belongs entirely to the neighboring Ohio County, crosses the Rough River, and terminates back inside the city limits of Livermore in McLean County. It achieved international fame, and the Ripleys Believe It or Not comic strip as the only bridge in the world that originates in one county, spans 2 distinct rivers, crosses an entirely different county, and ends in the exact county of its origin. The names of the communities scattered across McLean County are just as unique as its bridges. The county seat of Calhoun went from Rhodesville to Fort Vienna before being named in honor of Congressman John Calhoun. Over the decades, the spelling mysteriously shifted from Calhoun with 2 O's to Calhoun with an OU, likely due to bureaucratic confusion with the famous South Carolina Senator John C. Calhoun. The city of Livermore was named in honor of Alonzo Livermore, the civil engineer we talked about who designed the river's locks and dams. Sacramento was originally called Crossroads, then Social Hill, before a returning 49er named John Vickers suggested naming it after the California Gold Rush city. Today, Sacramento claims an unusual statistic anomaly. It may have the highest number of privately owned airplanes per capita of any other municipality in Kentucky. The city of Island was originally known as Worthington in honor of Revolutionary War veteran William Worthington, who owned a massive estate there. The name changed to Island because during periods of heavy river flooding, the low-lying Island Hills topography made the town literally an isolated island marooned from the adjacent land. The rural hamlets have the best names of all. Beech Grove was named for the massive, dense forests of native beech trees that engulfed the town site. Semiway got its name simply because the local general store was located halfway between Calhoun and Sacramento. Buttonsberry got its name when a local resident randomly spied a button lying on the ground while picking berries. Buell was intended to be named after Union General Don Carlos Buell with 2 L's, but the post office department made a spelling error and dropped the second L. Glenville was once commonly called Lick Skillet because food was so scarce there in the area that residents had to lick the skillets clean. And then there's the settlement of Poverty. In the late 1860s, a local physician, Dr. William Short, officially registered the town's name as Poverty to deliberately ridicule and annoy his wealthy, elitist neighbors. These neighbors had formed an exclusive social group called the Social Circle and considered themselves vastly superior in culture and breeding. Despite the residents' intense dislike of the name and their repeated attempts to change it to Eureka, the legal designation of poverty stubbornly remained on maps. Entering the 21st century, McLean County has been forced to navigate profound economic restructuring. The steady decline of the regional coal mining industry and the dismantling of tobacco quota systems precipitated an urgent need for diversification. Today, the county is actively capitalized on its highly fertile soils and river terminals, moving aggressively into advanced manufacturing, commercial poultry production, and mass grain exports. The county generates over $280 million annually in agricultural products while successfully transitioning its workforce towards the healthcare and educational sectors. Today, McLean is home to over 9,000 residents. If you're visiting in the spring, the crown jewel of the county's event calendar is the Battle of Sacramento Civil War reenactment. Held annually in mid-May, this event completely transforms the small town of Sacramento back to the 1860s. Dedicated hobbyists set up authentic living history camps, and the main event is a massive, meticulously choreographed recreation of Forrest's first fight, complete with cavalry charges and live artillery fire, shaking the ground where the original battle took place. Later in the year, the focus shifts to the water in the county's unique geography. Every August, the city of Livermore hosts Thunder on the Green, a massive high-speed drag boat racing event on the Green River that brings roaring engines and cheering crowds to the riverbanks. As the weather cools down in September, the town of Island celebrates its historically isolated roots with the annual Wooden Bridge Festival at Wooden Bridge Park. So, that's McLean County. What'd I get wrong this time?